Okay, in this video, I'm going to try to show you how to take the measurements to determine how far away a distant object is. And for this example, what I'm going to do is to try to figure out how far away this pole is from the tree that's on the far left of this screen. And so to do that, what I first need is a pointing device to point from this pole to that tree. And you can use a pencil, a ruler, but the longer and straighter the object, the more accurate you will be. And so I'm going to use some fine strips, which are super long, and they only cost $1.28 at Home Depot if you want to go get them, and I'll make sure to include a link at the bottom in the description below. So I'm going to just set it down here, starting at our pole here, and then I'm going to try to point it. And in order to make sure I point it accurately, I'm going to get my eye all the way down. When I put my eye all the way down on it, I can see down it as if seeing down a scope, and it makes it more accurate in the direction that I'm pointing. If you do have a laser pointer, this could be helpful if your laser pointer is strong enough to be able to shoot down your pointing device and then have you kind of raise it up to see if it is pointing at that tree. And in my case, it is. Regardless of how you do it, we are still using tools that are pretty rough, and so you get it accurate as you can, but it won't be perfect, and that's fine for now. Okay, the second step is to get another pointing device, and then just from anywhere else, set it down and point back at the same object. Okay, I now have my two pointing devices, this one to my right, your left, that one to my left, your right, pointing at that tree. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay a tape measure over the top of my pointing devices. Now, this is where it gets a little quirky, and there's two essential approaches that you can make. One is to make a right angle with the tape measure on one of your devices. It won't be a right angle on the other one. It should be less than 90 degrees in order to point back towards the same object. And thereby you'd be making a right triangle, which is something we have math for, using sine, cosine, or tangent. The other is to just lay it over any which way, and then we'll measure both angles. And when we do that, we're going to need to use a law of sines. But either way, we can figure it out. The first thing I want you to notice is that this intersection right here actually isn't at the end of the tape measure. In fact, I have lined up this edge, this inner edge, with the 10-inch mark. And it's key that you line it up with something. It doesn't have to be 10 inches. It could be 9, 8, 12, whatever, but something very clear so that when you get to the other side, you can more clearly determine the length. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure the angle right here on the inner piece between the tape measure and the pointing device. You need to make sure one edge lines up with 0 degrees, that the center piece, the marking in the middle, lines up with our corner, and then if you've got something that rotates like this, you want this to point down that other side, but if you don't, you're just going to look down the other side and read your marking. On this end, I'm going to measure the same one on the inside here, so right there, making sure I do the same process. Okay, now when you determine the length between the two pointing devices, what you're going to do is you're going to determine the measure right there, right at the inner edge of this. And so I'm going to read this out, and it says 132 and 5/8, but I have to subtract the 10 inches because over there I didn't start at 0, I started at 10. So my measurement is 122 and 5/8 inches. So now I've got my measures. I've got my 72-degree angle. I've got my 103-degree angle, there we go. And then my 122 and 5/8 distance. And that's what I need to know to determine how far away that tree is.